Hey guys, I am Game Advisor and welcome back to another Icarus update video. You might notice that my voice sounds a little bit different from normal and I apologize for that, but I am sick at the moment. We're going to be doing the best job that we can to give you guys still the same content. With that being said, just try not to get too aroused by the voice and let's get started. So today we have the new Styx map. If you guys didn't actually know about this, this is basically a free DLC for any players who currently own the game or buy it within the next couple of days from my understanding. And it's kind of their way of saying, hey, look, we screwed up at launch, we screwed up during the beta, the game was not in the state they were happy with, and this is their way of apologizing for it. It currently comes with 14 new missions and several new creatures, but it's worth mentioning that they did say they will be adding 2 more missions as of next week. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump down to the bottom of the update and talk about things that are directly related to this update. First up, we have the fact that the 4 new creatures, if you didn't already know, are going to be the adolescent cave worms, the key, the Komodo dragon, and the crocodiles. There is some bug fixes down here, but these really aren't that important, to be honest with you. So really what we're talking about here is just 14 new missions on a slightly different map with some new mazes. They do talk about the biomes being basically the same, but with some slight twists and changes. They do also talk about what their plans are for the game, so let's go ahead and jump into that. So the first question they address here is, why did they choose to do a map pack DLC instead of adding a full-on like expansion with totally new like alien creatures and an alien biome? And well, the short answer to that question is pretty straightforward. They said, hey, the game does not have a solid foundation yet, and the reason we did this map pack was a way to test out our new foundation. That's basically what I've gotten out of this. They're saying, hey, look guys, we've worked on the game a lot, and that's how the Styx map came to be. We revisited a bunch of ideas, we balanced the game, we fixed bugs, we've added new content that should make the game more fun. And even though this isn't a massive thing, this is something that is going to help them build upon that foundation when they put in those bigger DLCs or expansions, whatever you want to call them, that have all those alien biomes or those alien-like creatures and all the stuff that we saw in the trailer that we all are looking forward to. Next, they addressed, how does a free DLC actually work? Well, basically everyone who owns the game now and for the current time in the future, they will always own this DLC map pack for free. In other words, if you buy the game in the near future, or a friend for that matter, then you will get the DLC map pack for free with the Styx map. If you buy it, say, a year down the road, 6 months, I don't know when their timeline is, they don't specify it, then you might have to pay a small fee. They also addressed how much that would be, and they're thinking anywhere from $4 to $6, which, to be honest, I think is relatively fair. The game's already not that expensive, and $5 for 16 new missions really isn't that bad of a deal. We'll have to see what the new missions bring to the table, but again, this is free for all players right now. I think it's totally reasonable for them to charge for this in the future. They also outline what DLC content is, and that's basically going to be the Styx map or DLC expansions, which are things that add dramatic changes to the game and add lots and lots of new content. Things like those alien creatures we talked about, or new biomes, or a new area of the planet, or something along those lines. The next thing they address is, why is there no vehicles in the game? I don't know about you, but this was something I was excited for when I saw it in the trailer. Now, they didn't say they're not putting them in the game. Let me just get that out of the way. It seems like there's a good chance we'll have them in the future, just not at this stage. They basically break it down and say, look, if we added vehicles in, it could break the entire foundation of the game by changing the travel times and changing other mechanics in the game, like the weather system, like would you still die in the snow biome? Would it even be a threat if you had a vehicle, if you're inside a vehicle? There's a lot of things they have to take into consideration. They didn't say they aren't adding it, they just said that it's been actively a long debate internally for them. They felt that it was critical for them to prove that the required adaptations they've made to the game so far and all these other things to balance it out would be able to survive adding vehicles into the game. If you're anything like me and you've played other games, when they add content in too fast, it breaks the previous version of the game to make things unbalanced or not work right or too buggy, then it just isn't good for the game. So I'm glad they're holding off on it for the moment, and I'm glad they're not saying no to it. So we might see them in the future, we'll just have to wait and see. The next thing they addressed is why they haven't actually moved faster on producing content. To be honest with you guys, I don't even really need to read this one a whole lot. I know there's a lot they talk about in here, but for me, they've added a lot of content since this game came out 25 weeks ago. I think given the current state of the game, this is where it should have been when it launched, but regardless, they've added new gear, they've added new materials, they've added a ton of new things to the game. So I cannot complain with how fast they've been moving. If they keep at this pace where every single week there's new missions or some new type of gear or some new thing they're adding to the game, I'm going to be a happy camper myself. Now, we've already talked about alien biomes, but they address it again here to make things more clear. Basically, the reason they haven't added alien biomes into the game, even though they are working on them, which they do clarify, it's just at this point in time, if they were to implement them, it would make the game have a lot of performance issues, so they're just not ready to put that out. It doesn't mean they're not working at it. It doesn't mean they're not going to put it out. It just means we're probably going to have to wait a little while for it. And again, we'll probably see this in a DLC expansion, I'm guessing, sometime later this year. Following that, they did talk about the key, which is one of the birds they're adding to the game, which is their first bird, and that's cool and all, but to be honest with you, it's not really that relevant to anything they're saying. They're saying, hey, it's a bird, it's a cool bird, I love birds, which is awesome and all, but it really doesn't affect us as far as gameplay goes. Lastly, before we move into the new missions, basically they're just saying, here's some final thoughts for you guys, and it's their way of saying, look, we're sorry the beta sucked, we're sorry the launch sucked. This is our way of apologizing to you guys. We are excited for new things coming to the game, and this will hopefully hold you over until then. Another thing they point out here is that they've already begun work on the New Frontiers major expansion for Icarus. This is awesome, and they also state that it's due later this year, so I'm guessing we're going to see it sometime like October, September, November, December timeframe. They also say that they have a second expansion, Dangerous Horizons, which I think is one that a lot of people are excited for, and that is actually going to be planned for 2023. Originally, I believe this was planned for 2022, so it's nice that they're clarifying that, hey, look, the game was not in a stable state, we had to push it back. So it looks like that's what's happening here, and that's perfectly okay with me as long as it comes out and it's good. They also say that these major expansions will feature more challenging biomes, so it will be harder than it already is, which I'm definitely excited for, and more mutated or even alien life forms and new gameplay changes. I really hope they focus on this new alien life forms part. I'm just going to be straight with you, because if they come out and they're like, hey, there's baby scorpions now, and there's also adult scorpions, or this scorpion, but instead of, poison damage, it does a harder bleed attack. Like, that's not really enough for me to want to buy a DLC expansion. So I'm really, really hoping that these new biomes are interesting, they add new gameplay mechanics, add more depth to the game, and if that they do add mutated creatures, that's fine, but I really want to see alien life forms. That's what I saw in the trailer, and that's what I want to see now. Next, they mentioned the DevStream and AMA. Basically, if you don't know what this is where they're going to answer some questions. They're going to play some of the new Styx map for you guys on stream on Sunday, May 29th. Just be ready for that. If you're in America, that's going to be 3 p.m. PST. If you're somewhere else, you're just going to have to adjust for that. Or 10 p.m. UTC, that's usually the one everybody bases their time off. You just got to figure out where you're at in comparison to that. The link for the stream is actually right here. So if you want to watch it, all you got to do is click this link right here. It's really easy to do, and it'll pull it open on your web browser, and you'll be good to go. Now, they did add 14 maps with 2 more planned for next week, and to be honest with you guys, I'm not going to go too in-depth with this because we actually want to play them, and we have just not had time to do that. That's why this video is coming out so early. But once we've done that, we will be putting out mission guides on the ones that are relevant to you, so do look forward to those regardless. They did also mention the new creatures, which we talked about earlier, but I'm just going to leave those to you guys to read. There are 4 of them. They all have semi-interesting, a little bit different mechanics. Personally, I don't think they're that big of a deal, but it's still cool to have new creatures in Icarus. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Game Advisor, and I'll see you next time.